I discovered my uncle's sinister rules for a cursed cabin in the Rockies. Are they haunting? The moment Sarah stepped out of her car, a chill danced up her spine. The air felt thick, swollen with something unspoken, and shadows cast long fingers across the cracked gravel of her uncle's cabin. Surrounded by towering, brooding trees, the beauty of the Rockies was deceptive, cloaked in a sense of danger lurking just beyond sight. She kept glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting a presence to follow her. Once inside the cabin, warm and inviting at first glance, she felt disquiet settle in her stomach. Dust motes floated through slanted beams of dying sunlight, and the air smelled stale, like secrets long buried. As she wandered about, her fingers brushed a rusted handle on a worn drawer. Inside, she found a collection of handwritten notes, the rules. Her heart pounded as she read. Never go outside after dark, and don't trust the neighbors. Panic quickened her breath. Who had her uncle been? What sinister truths lay hidden behind these frantic scrawls? Dismissing it as the paranoia of an overworked mind, Sarah tried to focus on making the cabin feel like home for her daughter, Emma. Yet, at dusk, creeping shadows twisted along the walls and the forest outside felt alive, whispering secrets too terrifying to hear. Scratching sounds echoed from the night, and Emma, with her innocent curiosity, insisted she had made a friend outside Daisy. Sarah felt the hairs on her arms rise. "Mommy, Daisy said she wants to play after dark," Emma proclaimed, her eyes wide and gleaming with childlike excitement. "No, sweetie, we can play games inside," Sarah urged, gripping Emma's shoulders, fear flooding her. But deep down, a primal instinct screamed that this was not a game. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Later, Sarah stumbled into town, searching for comfort. The market seemed friendly enough, but something felt off. Locals exchanged furtive glances, their whispers dancing around her. That family, the cabin, it was like they all knew something she didn't. When she asked the storekeeper for help, he chuckled nervously, shaking his head in dismissal. "You'll be fine, lady. Just keep to yourself." Fine was subjective. Each night grew darker, laden with dread, her own instincts screaming at her to flee. The rules echoed relentlessly in her mind, dragging her deeper into fear. The trees outside felt like watchers. Their gnarled branches reached out as if to trap them. Emma's tales grew more vivid, and Sarah felt the ground relent beneath her feet. Alone in the night, with only the creaking of the wood and the scratching still haunting the air, Sarah realized that leaving might not be an option. She was anchored here, straddled between a past that felt cursed and a present that felt increasingly dangerous. "The neighbors are not what they seem," gripped her as she clutched Emma tightly, heart racing at the unknown beyond the door. It was then she understood the cabin was a trap, and something was waiting to unravel the family's secrets, drawing them into darkness. What could be lurking just beyond the fragile safety of their new home? With a sudden shudder of clarity, Sarah faced the night, knowing the real horrors were only just beginning. Sarah's heart raced as she leaned against the wall, the rough wood grounding her in a whirlwind of terror. The only light came from a flickering candle casting long shadows that danced eerily across the cabin. Emma giggled softly in the other room, her laughter like a distant echo of innocence, unaware of the darkness wrapping around them. "Mommy, Daisy said we should go outside," Emma called, her voice laced with playful urgency. The urge to rush to her daughter's side was fierce, but a voice in Sarah's head warned her to stay put. The rules echoed relentlessly in her mind, warning her of the dangers outside. Never go outside after dark. She gritted her teeth against the encroaching panic, forcing herself to calm down. Taking a breath, she walked cautiously toward Emma, her footsteps muted on the wooden floor. As she reached the doorway, a sudden chill swept through the room, freezing her in place. Emma stood by the window, peering out into the inky blackness. "Daisy is waiting for us, Mommy," she chirped, eyes wide with that same bright excitement. "Sweetheart, we can't. It's late," Sarah interjected, her voice quaking as she stepped closer. The tiny hairs on the back of her neck prickled. At that moment, the wind howled outside, shaking loose a branch that scratched against the cabin's exterior. Cassette tapes of horror played in Sarah's mind: lost travelers, missing families. Had the cabin claimed them too? "Mommy, look," Emma pointed, her expression changing from excitement to something darker, a flicker of fear crossing her tiny face. Sarah followed her daughter's gaze. At the edge of the tree line, just beyond the light, there was movement, something pale and thin, swaying slowly as if beckoning. A figure. "Daisy?" Emma's whisper barely broke the stillness. Panic surged through Sarah. She grabbed Emma's hand, clutching it tight. "We should go back to the living room." But as they turned, a sudden smattering of knocks echoed against the cabin door. Each knock felt like a heartbeat, each thud shaking the fragile sanity Sarah tried to hold on to. "Open the door. Let me in," a raspy voice called, chilling her to the bone. "Who is it?" she managed to squeak out. "It's Cal, the neighbor." "I need your help, Cal." The name stirred a memory. The townspeople's hushed whispers haunting her mind, and her uncle's frantic warnings rang like a bell. "Mom, can we let him in?" Emma didn't realize how dangerous the situation was, her innocent curiosity shining through. "No," Sarah shouted sharply. She felt a weight pressing down on her, the very air heavy with dark energy. "We don't know if it's safe." The knocks grew more frantic, pressing against her nerves. "I'm telling you, it's not safe out there. You need to let me in." Just then, the candle's light flickered wildly, casting twisted shadows on the wall. Sarah's breath quickened, and she felt the sinister presence creeping in. "Mommy, I think Daisy is getting bored," Emma said softly, inching closer to the door. "Stay away from there," Sarah hissed, forcing herself to stay calm. The wind howled again, and the darkness outside grew thicker, swirling around the cabin as if something unseen was stalking them. With every passing second, dread coiled tighter in her belly. It wasn't safe. Not here. Not anywhere. "Open up or I'll break the door down." Cal's voice shifted to anger. "Mommy, I'm scared." Emma's lip trembled, eyes darting between her mother and the door. With hands shaking, Sarah slid her phone from her pocket. No signal. Trapped, both physically and mentally, she realized the truth. Her uncle's rules weren't just warnings. They were a curse. "Emma, we're going to hide. Okay?" Just as Sarah turned to grab her daughter, the door splintered open, revealing a chaotic burst of darkness. The silhouette of Cal stood at the threshold, features obscured, eyes glinting with a feral intensity. "Now you've done it," he hissed, stepping further inside. In that moment, Sarah's world turned upside down, as the rules became a scope of survival. What waited in the darkness outside was nothing compared to the horror now spilling into their sanctuary. What had they unleashed? Would the real nightmare be letting him in, or would it be refusing him? In that chilling moment, with dread coiling tightly around her heart, Sarah realized they were far from safe, and that was just the beginning. The swirl of darkness enveloped the cabin, crawling along the walls like a living thing. Sarah's heart hammered, each beat a frantic reminder of the danger now inside the room. Cal's presence filled the space with an ominous weight. Emma stood transfixed, her small frame stiffening in fear. "Cal, step back," Sarah demanded, her voice trembling but edged with a fierce defiance. "What did you bring in here?" Cal grinned, an unsettling, predatory grin that sent shivers racing down Sarah's spine. "You think you're safe? Out there, the woods are alive. You shouldn't have ignored them." The shadows seemed to pulse, wrapping tighter around them, and Sarah could almost hear the whispers of unseen things, clawing at her sanity. "What do you mean?" She fought to keep her voice steady, her grip on Emma's hand tightening. "Daisy," Cal hissed almost lovingly. "She's waiting for your little girl. She's hungry." "Who the hell is Daisy?" Sarah shot back, forcing herself to resist the urge to flee. Cal's presence was a boiling pot of terror, and she could feel the lid ready to explode. Emma's eyes glazed over, staring not just at Cal, but through him. "Daisy is my friend," she murmured, her childlike innocence weaving dangerously with the heaviness in the air. It was as if she was in a trance, torn between two worlds. "Emma, honey, listen to me," Sarah pleaded, her heart racing. "Step away from him." But Cal's dark chuckle echoed in the room, the sound sending a fresh wave of nausea through Sarah. "You don't know what you're up against, do you? The rules aren't just to keep you out of the woods, they're to keep her safe from what lurks within." "What are you talking about?" Sarah hardly recognized her own voice. It was soaked in dread, hopeless against the terror swarming around them. "Daisy is a part of the darkness. She'll take what she wants, what she needs. She needs a friend. Leave her alone." Sarah screamed, fearing what Cal might do to Emma. But Sarah knew this twisted reality wasn't just about him. It was about the figure that had waited in the darkness. It was a game, a trap crafted from the very rules that had been passed down. And now it was her turn to play. Cal took a step closer, the shadows behind him rippling like malevolent water. "You don't have a choice. If you let her stay in, she will consume you all. But if you let Daisy in..." The breath caught in Sarah's throat. "You're wrong," she yelled. "I won't play your twisted games." Emma took brave and distracted steps towards Cal, as if he were the sun breaking through a storm. "Mommy, please, Daisy wants to play. She said she loves me." "Stop." Sarah lunged forward, panic clawing at her chest. She threw an arm around Emma, pulling her close. "No more games. You can't let him or Daisy in." The cabin shuddered in response, the floorboards groaning under the weight of something malicious. Shadows flickered and flickered until they seemed to grow claws, reaching for Emma. Suddenly, the window shattered, a cascade of icy wind flooding in. Sarah turned, heart racing, feeling as if the whole world was collapsing. The darkness seeped inside her mind, whispers of ancient fears coiling around her thoughts. Cal's laughter rose over the chaos, a sinister sound that echoed in her ears. "You'll choose, Sarah. Either Daisy or yourself." "No," she shouted, desperation coursing through her veins. "I won't let her go." Emma's face shifted, betraying a hint of confusion mixed with something deeper, something shadowy. "She's not scary, Mommy. You're just scared." In that pulse of an instant, Sarah realized the darkness wasn't just outside. It was already inside her child, stirred by the whims of a creature beyond comprehension. "Emma, listen to me." But as she reached for her, it felt as if a wall of ice formed between them, keeping her away. Just then, a chilling clarification surged through the cabin. Daisy wasn't merely a figment of a child's imagination or a benign friend. She was the embodiment of the darkness that framed their world. And soon, Sarah feared, it might become a part of them. "Let us go. We've done nothing wrong," Sarah cried, each word pushing against the weight of despair. "Not yet, but you will," Cal whispered, a shadow of a smile ghosting his lips. The air thickened, and Sarah understood something was coming. The choice loomed above them, an unholy trinity of mother, daughter, and nightmare. Just when she thought Sarah could stand firm, the lights flickered and cut out, leaving them in a suffocating darkness. A low, droning hum pulsed through the air. What had they awakened? Would they fall into the eternal depths of despair, or find a way to cut through the veil of dread? Mommy Emma's voice trembled, small against the surge of encroaching shadows. How would this story end? Would they fight against it, or embrace the darkness together? The night was still young. The air crackled with tension as Sarah's heart raced in the enveloping darkness. She felt the oppressive weight of despair close in, tangled up with the whispers of her daughter. Emma's voice, always a melody of innocence, now trembled through the stale air, riding on thousands of silent screams. Mommy Emma's small hand slipped from Sarah's grip momentarily, reaching toward Cal. It was as though the shadows called to her, each flicker of movement in the pitch-black room laced with sinister promise. "Daisy wants to play." "No," Sarah barked, panic rising like bile. It surged in her throat, choking her resolve. She stumbled forward, desperate to pull Emma back before Daisy could manifest from the haunted shadows. The cabin shuddered. The walls echoed with the laughter of unseen phantoms. They were not alone. Cal's eyes glinted, catching what little light remained, and for a split second, they reflected a creature of insatiable hunger. Your daughter has always been curious about what lies beyond. Hasn't she? His words curled around them like smoke. Get away from her. The primal instinct swelled within Sarah, pushing against the terror, pulling fiercely. She strained to hold on as she felt an invisible force tugging at Emma, dragging her closer to that predator grinning in the shadows. "Mommy, I want to see Daisy," Emma said, her voice soft, almost pleading. The confusion mingled with childlike wonder twisted something deep inside Sarah, a sense of dread that rose higher with each word. "Please let her in?" Cal stepped backward slightly, as if letting the shadows shift independently. "Daisy is waiting, Sarah. She can be a friend or a foe. That's the beauty of choice." With every chill running down her spine, Sarah could feel it. The darkness was not just a backdrop. It was alive, breathing, plotting. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floorboards, through her bones. It was chanting, whispering fragments of a dark promise, a gruesome lullaby she never wanted to hear. "Emma, look at me." Sarah fought through the dread gripping her heart like a vice. She moved closer to her daughter, reaching out, willing the ice-thin barrier between them to melt. "You mustn't listen to him. Daisy is not a friend. But you don't understand." Mommy Emma's eyes began to glint eerily in the dark. "She said she could make me happy. Forever." "Stop!" Sarah screamed, the word bursting out of her like a dam breaking. The shadows gathered, swirling around them as if entranced by her fear. "You don't want that. Daisy only brings pain and darkness. She is not real." Cal's laughter shattered the air, slicing through her determination. "Isn't it obvious, Sarah? What's real is what you choose to believe. And you know those who ignore the woods do so at their own peril." The wind howled, and the broken window let in a freezing gust that carried with it the scent of earth, rot, and something unfathomably malevolent. In that moment, Sarah felt an unholy awakening, a thing lurking just outside the periphery of her perception, feeding on their terror. "Help us!" Sarah cried into the dark, hoping against hope. But who could hear? What power could intervene? "Help is a tricky notion," Cal said, his voice sliding so smoothly it felt like poison. "Perhaps your help lies in the very choice you're refusing to make." The shadows shifted again, a wave of twisting tendrils that seemed to pulse with life itself. Sarah could feel them approach, brushing against her skin, chilling her to the core. She swallowed hard, fighting to maintain her grasp on reality. "What do you want from us?" she asked, hoping to draw the truth out from beneath the layers of madness. Cal stepped closer, a dark specter towering beside her child. "Your soul's sweet, Sarah. All you must do is surrender one little girl to the darkness, and the others may just stay safe." A thrum of dread coursed through Sarah. They were at a precipice, teetering between salvation and haunting damnation. And though she could hear Emma's soft voice drifting through the shadows like a tender note, "Mommy, don't be scared. Daisy will take care of me." With blood pounding in her ears, Sarah screamed into the suffocating night. "No, you won't take her. I'll fight." But did she have the will? The duration of the battle ahead was cloaked beneath ominous clouds. As darkness slithered through the cabin, impossibly hungry, Sarah realized she might not just have to fight Cal. What if Daisy wasn't the only thing waiting in the woods, in the shadows, inside them? An icy hand gripped her heart as she braced herself. What else had they awakened? The night was still young and the game had only just begun. The shadows lurched, twisting into grotesque shapes around Sarah as she fought to keep her daughter close. The cabin felt alive, pulsing with something ancient and terrible. And with each passing heartbeat, Sarah's resolve splintered like dry wood. "Mommy, I want to see Daisy." Emma's voice echoed, the innocence tainted with an unnerving longing. It set off alarms deep within Sarah, as if every parent's instinct screamed in unison, to warn her of the impending danger. "No, Emma!" she shouted, panic splintering her voice. Her skin crawled as darkness whispered against her flesh, taunting her with forbidden secrets. "Daisy is not what you think. She'll hurt you." Callous laughter was a black dagger aimed straight at her heart. "You can't save her, Sarah. You cannot fight against what has already claimed so many. Just let go." The shadows thickened, coiling around her ankles, pulling her into a haunting dance. She stumbled, struggling against the dark tendrils squeezing tighter, revealing unholy secrets that clawed at her sanity. Fragments of light flickered the memories of Emma laughing, playing, love spilling like sunlight through a window. With a wild flick of her hand, Sarah sent one of the shadows reeling back, and she felt a gasp of hope ignite inside her. But then Cal nodded knowingly, and the darkness responded, rolling back like a wave, revealing a hidden world beyond. Figures flickered in the gloom, lost souls. Their haunted eyes locked onto Sarah, terror firing through their hollowed features. Each face felt familiar, a mirror reflecting pieces of her own dread. "Tell me, Sarah." Cal's voice curled like smoke around her. "Do you really think your love can protect her from the inevitable?" Daisy sings a song that has lured many before. Your daughter is just the next verse. The temperature dropped significantly. The frigid air seeped into Sarah's bones, anguish and fear tangling like barbed wires within her mind. I won't let this happen." "Despair is delicious," Cal murmured. "Let it fill you. Your daughter is becoming one with the darkness as we speak. You have to accept that she may prefer it and oh." A raw scream escaped Sarah's lips, echoing against the walls. She fought against the swirling madness, drawing on every ounce of love she had for Emma. It surged like a tide, pushing through the blackness, her feelings crafting a protective barrier. Emma seemed to falter, her brow furrowing as the shadows contorted around her. "Mommy, I feel weird." In that moment, Sarah saw a glimmer of the Emma she knew fighting through the cloud of shadows, a flicker of disbelief. It sent adrenaline coursing through her body. "Listen to me, Emma. Fight it. Don't let them in. Remember our stories? Remember our laughter? You love the sun. You love to play, to be free." "Mommy," Emma whispered, her voice trembling, the shadows trembling in response to that flickering hope. But Cal wasn't finished. "Ah, sweet Sarah, hope can be a cruel illusion." He stepped closer, eyes burning with malice. "All you must do is choose who to save. Will it be your daughter or your own soul? A choice." The idea settled in Sarah's mind like a toxic weight. Could she trade her own freedom for Emma's? But the reality of the darkness transmitting its sinister intentions only pushed her to fight harder. A surge of energy coursed through her, wrapping around her heart like steel. "You can't have either of us," she screamed, feeling her voice reach into the depths of the shadows. The walls rattled. It felt as if the very cabin was awakening. A beast stirred from millennia of slumber. A howling wind roared through the cracks, and for a brief second, the shadows shrank back in fear. It was just enough for Sarah to seize the moment in that pivotal instant. She grasped Emma's hand tightly, pulling her closer. "We will break this together." But something stirred in the darkness. A new presence, heavier and darker than any shadow before. A whisper floated through the air, electrifying and leering. "Foolish child, you've only awakened the hunger. What else had they stirred from the depths of this cursed cabin?" As the air thickened with a menacing presence, Sarah could feel every fiber of her being tremble in dread. She would have to confront this new terror head-on. But what if it was more than she could handle? The night still shrouded many mysteries, and the game was just beginning to unfold. The ground beneath Sarah shook violently, sending splinters of wood raining down as the shadows coiled tighter, whispering secrets that threatened to unravel her sanity. She held Emma's hand with fierce desperation, anchoring herself to the one flicker of light in this overwhelming darkness. "Stay close," she shouted, feeling the cold seep deeper into her skin. The wind howled like a wild animal, unearthing sounds of torment and despair from the very foundations of the cabin. Outside, the night seemed to come alive, branches snapping in the distant trees like bones breaking underfoot. The darkness swirled in thick waves, revealing ghastly faces, lost souls reaching out toward them with elongating fingers, mouths stretched into silent screams. Every face was a parent's nightmare, a warning of what awaited if they faltered. It struck Sarah deep, a frigid stab of dread pooling in her chest. Then, Calais' presence intensified, looming closer, his features shifting with the shadows. You're too late, Sarah. The hunger is awakening, and it craves a feast. The air pulled tight, as if the fabric of reality had begun to fray. Sarah could feel the tension tugging at her mind, her thoughts swirling under the weight of dread. Everything she loved felt out of reach, slipping further away. She couldn't give in, couldn't break. Emma. 10 seconds, Sarah murmured, urgently squeezing her daughter's hand. Remember the song? The one we made up by the river? But Mommy, Emma whimpered, her eyes wide, reflecting the horrors around them. Just trust me. Sarah's voice cut through the darkness. It's a magic song. It'll keep us safe. Magic, Emma repeated, her innocence sparkling through the gloom like a last glimmer of hope. Growling laughter reverberated through the air. Calais' eyes glinted with malicious delight. You think a mere song can save you? Your love is weakened. Look around. You are surrounded by the lost, and soon, your daughter will join them. The ground shuddered as a figure emerged from the shadows, taller than any human, limbs impossibly long and twisted. Its eyes glowed like dying embers, unblinking. Feed me, it hissed with a voice that rattled Sarah's bones. I am hunger, and hunger will claim. With a shriek, Sarah yanked Emma back, barreling towards the far side of the cabin as the monstrous presence lunged forward. Wood splintered as the creature's claws lashed out, missing them by mere inches. Run! Sarah shouted, adrenaline rushing through her veins. They dashed towards the old fireplace, charred stones cracked and discolored with years of neglect. A gust of wind blew past them, thick with whispers that clawed at Sarah's ears, begging her to listen, to understand. Given they seemed to chant, as shadows wrapped tighter around Emma, pulling her away. No! Sarah cried out, feeling the grip on her daughter slacken. Emma's eyes met hers, pleading and confused. Fight her, Emma. We have our own magic. Light burst forth in her mind, illuminating the dark corners. Close your eyes, sweetheart. Think of the colors, the warmth of the sun. Sarah began to hum, the notes quivering with urgency, each one a thread of their bond weaving through the fabric of despair. Emma, hesitant, began to hum along, voices intertwining against the encroaching darkness. It was like breaking a spell, the shadows recoiling for the first time, but the figure loomed larger, drawn to their harmony like moths to a flame. No! It screamed, rage emanating from its twisted form. The cabin trembled. The walls pulsated with their sounds, wrapping around them in a protective cocoon. Sarah could feel the power surge, yet the shadow thing lunged forward with a new ferocity, stifling their song. The cracking of wood echoed like gunfire as the cabin seemed to warp and twist, struggling against the two forces vying for dominance. It was a battle of wills, a mother and child against a nightmare that fed on despair. Emma, louder! Sarah shouted, lungs burning. But outside, the night grew louder as the wind screamed, shaking the foundation beneath them. Would their song be enough to fend off the horror? Would they be ripped apart, swallowed by the birth of a new darkness? As they sang, voices intertwined through the panic. Sarah felt it, a crack in the air, a surge of wind pushing against the thing clawing into their world. But she didn't know if it would last or if it could unravel at any moment. There were still secrets to unearth within the shadows, and as the light flickered dimly, the forest howled in consensus. The darkness was just waking up, hungry for more than just a song. What else lurked in the corners of that cursed cabin? Would they survive to discover the truth, or would they become the next lost souls tangled in its grip? The shadows writhed like serpents, twisting and contorting as they tried to break through the barrier of Sarah's and Emma's song. Sarah could feel Emma trembling beside her, the tension in the air crackling like static electricity. They continued their desperate melody, determined to hold the darkness at bay, but fatigue gnawed at Sarah's resolve. Let us change it up. Sarah exclaimed, hoping to inject new energy into their chant. Sing the part about the river. Emma nodded, her voice wavering but joining in. Down by the river the water sparkles bright, the grotesque form outside writhed, its limbs snapping and twisting in anger at their defiance. With each note, Sarah could almost see the resonance pushing against the shadows, tearing apart the fabric of the malevolence that sought to engulf them. But the creature was persistent, slashing at the air in frustration. Suddenly, the cabin's windows shattered, winter air rushed in, biting at their skin. The gusts shrieked like banshees, sweeping Sarah's hair back, twisting the darkness just outside their refuge into an ominous dance. Screams of that horrible hunger filled her mind, clawing for attention. Feel the cold? Cal's voice dripped with mockery as he stepped closer, his shadow merging with the fiend outside. It's not the song that stings. It's the truth lurking beneath it. You can't fight what you refuse to acknowledge. Fear twisted in Sarah's gut. The shadows contorted, forming a massive hand that swiped at them again, barely missing. Sarah gripped Emma's hand tighter, her heart thundering in her chest. What is this truth? She shouted, trying to pierce through the madness. It's the truth of the curse. Cal laughed, the sound jagged and mocking. You don't understand, do you? This cabin is a trap and you are the bait. Your love only feeds it. For a moment, doubt seeped into Sarah's heart. Was this really just a hunt? A game played by forces beyond their understanding? But the look in Emma's eyes, those wide, innocent eyes, snapped Sarah back to her purpose. No, we will fight for each other. Our love is stronger than any curse. Again they sang, weaving notes like a barrier. But the hand swept through again, grazing their sides, chilling them to the bone. A cold panic surged through Sarah as she felt their bond flicker momentarily. Let go. Emma screamed, the anguish in her voice erupting through the air. No. Sarah refused, knowing better. We hold on, no matter what. She could see Cal's face distorting, the shadows writhing around him in short bursts of light and darkness. You think you can defy me? You will see your daughter consumed, and then you will follow. This darkness feeds on despair. Suddenly, there was a piercing crack that ripped through the air, a noise so loud it felt like the very sky split open. Sarah turned, eyes wide, caught between fear and disbelief. The roof groaned, beams splintering, revealing a fissure of night beyond. The shadows poured in like smoke, darker than anything Sarah had ever seen. Mommy! Emma gasped, stumbling back as the shadows advanced, swirling, ready to engage. They were no longer just shadows. They were hungry, ravenous darkness, determined to breach the sanctuary they had fought for. Just as despair clawed at Sarah, something unexpected occurred. The room vibrated, and a soft glow emanated from inside the fireplace. Strange symbols began to illuminate the stones, ancient markings pulsing with an energy different from the impending darkness. Look, Sarah shouted. Something's happening. But Cal, furious and desperate, lunged forward. Stop them, he cried, his voice slicing through the room. Feed. They must feed. The shadows surged forward, drawn to the flickering glow as the darkness began to churn violently inside the cabin. Fear gripped Sarah's chest like ice, but this light, fair yet distant, promised salvation. Emma, I think it can protect us, Sarah yelled over the cacophony of screams. They needed to reach the light. They needed to summon whatever ancient power it held. That as weighty shadows clawed at their heels, they ran toward the glowing fireplace. Would the light stand against the consuming darkness? Or would it only shine for a moment before chaos swallowed them whole? As they felt their feet lift from the ground, the symbols etched in the stones flared brighter, casting the room into blinding brilliance. What secrets did this light hold? And would it be enough to confront the darkness that wanted to devour them whole? The glow enveloped them, wrapping around like a protective cocoon. The shadows recoiled, hissing with malice, their movements spasmodic as the light pierced through their malevolence. Sarah and Emma gasped, their breaths mingling with the brilliant energy that filled the room. But fear still lurked at the edges of their consciousness. Don't hold back, Sarah urged, her voice intense. We need to channel this light. With newfound determination, They began to sing again, this time projecting their voices with every ounce of strength they possessed. Down by the river where the sun shines bright the lyrics soared, trembling in the air, feeding the light with every note. In response, the cymbals pulsed faster, and for a brief moment, it appeared as if the shadows were battling against a tide that sought to reclaim the darkness. But the sinister whispers grew louder, shrieking through the night air, drowning out their desperate melody. Fools! Callous' voice boomed, now twisted, a blend of rage and desperation. You think that glimmer can protect you? It only feeds the curse. It's never-ending. The ground quaked beneath them, the walls of the cabin shuddering as if the very structure protested against the incursion of light. Splinters flew, and Sarah's heart raced faster. Was Cal right? Was hope merely a cruel illusion? With every ounce of resolve, she gripped Emma's hand tighter. We won T-stop. She could feel Emma's trembling warmth against her palm, a comfort amidst chaos. Keep singing. But as they reached for their final line, icy fingers of despair gripped their hearts. The shadows lunged back, swift and hungry, retracting into grotesque whispers that clawed at Sarah's mind. They had to withstand. They had to believe. Suddenly, a deep crack split the air. The fireplace erupted in a blaze of light, sending shards of energy spiraling like fireworks. The symbols on the stones swirled and danced, illuminating the cabin in pulsating patterns. But a new shadow had entered the fray. The very essence of Cal merged with the darkness, forming a monstrous silhouette framed against the fire's glow. Do you think mere sounds can outmatch the essence of despair? Cal bellowed, his face merging with the horror surrounding him. You will know true fear. The flames surged dangerously close, merging with the light as Cal's presence thickened around them, his power amplifying the shadows as they clawed upward, seeking access to the light. With each shadow that fell to the ground, another rose, a relentless tide consuming their hope. In a sudden burst of clarity, Sarah realized the truth spilled from those glowing symbols. Let the light consume us, she yelled, the thought igniting a spark in her heart. We'll become one with it. Emma's wide eyes met Sarah's, a mix of confusion and disbelief. Trust me, Sarah cried, pulling Emma closer. Let go of our fear. Embrace the light. Together they stepped into the radiant glow, surrendering to it. A fusion of euphoria and terror washed over them, the shadows jerking violently, their forms splintering against this new surge. The very essence of despair squirmed, their shrieks morphing into cries of anger, twisted and broken. Suddenly, the fiery vortex grew in size, and the room erupted into chaos, a whirlwind of sound and light, shadows flailing in frailty against the raw power of solidarity. They felt the very fabric of their beings merge with the light, growing stronger, bolder. But just as hope began to spiral upward, an unexpected silence fell, swallowing all sound. The shadows froze momentarily, as if confused. Now, Cal roared, rallying the shadows with a frosty dread. Feed on their despair. In an instant, the stillness shattered. The shadows lunged toward the glowing light, a furious wave against the fragile sanctuary they had formed. Teeth bared and claws outstretched, they surged, intent on consuming everything in their path. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, racing against impending doom. This was at a final stand, but how could they resist the suffocating dread that hung in the air? Would the light be there? Salvation? Or was it merely teasing a futile hope? The shadows surged forward, pure primal fear laying siege on their resolve. And in that moment of madness, the very heart of darkness prepared to strike. Could they truly transcend the fate that Cal had foretold? Or would they merely become another whisper lost to the shadows? A deafening roar erupted as the shadows lunged, a wave of dark fury crashing against the flickering light. Sarah and Emma braced themselves, clinging to each other and the song that had once given them strength. But the melody faltered, caught in a web of overwhelming dread. With a deep, visceral rage, the darkness surged forward, more united, more powerful. Faces twisted in anguish and rage emerged from the shadowy mass fragments of lost souls, echoes of despair. Their vacant eyes found Sarah's, and she felt the cold grip of hopelessness reach for her heart. The heat from the fire raged like a wildfire, melding with the blinding light around them. It was a duality of fury and warmth, and Sarah struggled to maintain her footing. "We need to keep singing," she shouted desperately, trying to drown out Cal's echoing laughter that reverberated around the cabin. "We can't let it take us." Emma's voice trembled, thin like a whisper. "Breathe," Sarah yelled, feeling her own breath hitch in her throat. "It's fighting our unity. We need to. But the shadows pressed closer, gnashing their jagged teeth, making it harder to find words that resonated with determination. The flames flickered, dimming under the weight of despair. "Look," Sarah cried, sensing a flicker in the depths of the shadows where Cal's form spiraled. "It's him, Emma. He's the core of this darkness. If we break him," maybe a gut-wrenching screech interrupted her thought. "You think you can stop me, little girls?" Cal's voice slithered through the air. "You will become the sorrow that binds these shadows. They will live forever in your skin." With renewed purpose, Sarah focused her energy, channeling everything into a single force. "Sing for the fallen," she exclaimed. "Sing for those lost to this dark prison." They found their rhythm again, voices rising in pitch and power. "Down by the river where the sun shines bright." The words came out shaky but strong, resonating with a fierce energy that pulsed through the air. The cymbals around them flared, connecting them like the branches of a tree reaching for the sky. The shadows recoiled briefly, caught off guard. But Cal was relentless. His own voice poured forth, overlapping their own in a cacophony of dread. "Remember that light, that flicker of hope? It will burn you alive. Let the darkness wrap you tight." Agony twisted through Sarah's mind as she struggled not to succumb to despair. A memory flickered like the failing light. Her mother's warm embrace, laughter shared, brave faces against the storms of fear. "We won T let you win," Sarah shouted, consuming her fear with those memories. The shadows hesitated, momentarily faltering in their advance. Cal screeched, summoned closer by the tide of his own turmoil. "No, they are mine." With every ounce of strength, Sarah and Emma pushed forward through the sound, drowning out their fears and sorrow with their duet. The light surged again, bright blinding rays stretching towards the very soul of the darkness before them. Suddenly, as if struck by lightning, the shadows began to scream in unity. "We will not relinquish power," they howled, voices rising like a storm. The glowing cymbals pulsed with urgency, a final desperate call. Sarah felt the force within her, the fusion of light attempting to consume the shadows. But could they truly overpower Cal's insatiable hunger for despair? As fragmented screams intensified, penetrating her very essence, Sarah blinked against the light growing stronger. "Emma, we're almost there. Just a little longer." But just as hope began to shimmer again, a shadow sprouted beneath Emma's feet. It lashed out, grabbing her ankle with the ferocity of the damned. Emma's eyes widened in terror. "Sarah." The light pulsed wildly as shadows swirled and flickered around them dangerously. The connection began to fray. "Hold on," Sarah screamed, reaching for her friend. How could she save Emma from the very darkness that sought to consume them both? The air was thick with impending doom, hearts racing wildly as Sarah fought against the cold fingers pulling her away. Was unity enough? Could the light endure when faced with the deepest darkness? The cabin shook, the inner battle raging as time stretched to a snapping point. What would they sacrifice to break the curse? With shadows reaching for her very soul, Sarah took a breath and made a choice. What would it cost to truly shine? Would it be too late to find out? As the shadows pulsed, Sarah felt herself teetering on the edge of despair. She could see the darkness consuming Emma, its grip tightening like a noose. Callous laughter echoed through the cabin, taunting, insidious. "You can't save her. You've lost." "Not yet," Sarah shouted, her heart pounding as she fought to keep her voice steady. "Emma, listen to me. You are stronger than this darkness. Remember every laugh, every game, every moment in the sun." Emma's light flickered within her eyes, as if Sarah's words were a lifeline, pulling her back from the precipice. But the shadows lunged forward, hungry, twisting around her, threatening to snuff out that spark. "No!" Sarah screamed, her fear igniting a blaze of determination. She grasped her daughter's hand, tightening her grip with a fierce resolve. "You have to fight it. We are love. We are light." In that moment, she knew what she had to do. She couldn't just keep singing. They needed to embody the light they fought for. The glowing symbols on the fireplace pulsed in time with her heartbeat, offering a connection that felt unreal yet vital. "Together," Sarah shouted, pulling Emma close. "We are stronger together." They faced the swirling mass of shadows, and with a deep breath, Sarah led them into the melody. Down by the river, where the sun shines bright, they sang in unison, their voices intertwining in a tapestry of love and hope. The cabin vibrated, responding to their connection. The shadows hissed in anger, but Sarah poured every ounce of her love into the song. The cymbals flared brighter, igniting warmth that spread through the room, radiating outwards like an explosion of light. She and Emma stood not just as mother and daughter but as warriors against the despair that had gripped their world. Then the darkness recoiled, screeching as if it were being burned. "You don't understand," Cal howled, his power faltering against the tide of light. "This darkness is eternal. It feeds on despair. Only if we let it," Sarah shouted back, channeling all her emotions, fear, love, hope into the crescendo of their song. As the shadows began to churn, she felt warmth radiate from Emma, mingling with her own, forming a protective cocoon around them. "Mommy, I see it," Emma said, her voice shining with newfound clarity. A shimmer of light flickered in the back of her mind, a glowing tapestry weaving through her thoughts, revealing all the moments of joy and warmth they shared. "Then let us unleash it," Sarah urged, pushing deeper into their melody. Together, they conjured memories of laughter, family dinners, and sunlit afternoons, a chorus of love forming an unseen barrier against callous darkness. Suddenly, a rift opened in the shadows, a glimpse of the lost souls swirling beneath, grasping, pleading. "Help us," they cried, their voices merging into a haunting symphony. Sarah felt their pain, but she wouldn't allow herself to falter. "We can do this, Emma. It's not just for us. We need to help them." With that thought igniting a wildfire within her, Sarah intensified their song, urging Emma to join her in calling the light forward. "For everyone lost, we will fight." The very cabin rippled with energy, the air crackling with the promise of liberation. The shabby wood of the cabin became alive with light, and the walls reacted, pulsing with the hope they ignited. The light surged as they poured their hearts into the song, energizing the very fibers of the world around them. A blast exploded forth, and the dark figure of Cal flinched. "This isn't over." He spat, but his voice trembled as he reared back, the shadows shrieking in panic. Then, in a powerful moment of unison, Sarah and Emma turned toward the darkness, channeling all the love and energy they had shared. "We won't let despair win," they shouted together. With that declaration, light erupted from the fireplace, engulfing the cabin, consuming the darkness. The shadows convulsed, shrieking as they were pulled into the radiant glow. Cal's form melted away, flailing in anguish as the walls of the cabin shifted and buckled. "Hold on tight," Sarah instructed as the light surged wildly, expanding, bursting free from the confines of their desperate surroundings. There was a vacuuming pull, the darkness clawing back at them, a furious howl filling the air as they were swept away by the tide of light. That in that blinding moment, Sarah felt weightless, letting love and hope cascade over them. The shadows shrieked one last time, like 1,000 voices trapped in a storm, before dissolving into nothingness as the light began to fade and the swirling chaos slowed. Sarah found herself standing outside tree branches still swaying in the night breeze, the cabin standing calm, serene. The oppressive weight had lifted. "Mommy?" Emma's voice broke the stillness, her wide eyes searching. "It's okay, sweetie." Sarah knelt to pull her daughter into a tight embrace, the warmth of love radiating between them, a shield against the darkness they had faced. "We did it." They stepped away from the cabin, looking back one last time. It felt like a lifetime of dread had fallen away, replaced by a rekindled promise of hope and healing. "Can we go home now?" Emma asked, clutching her mother's hand tightly. Sarah smiled down at her daughter, feeling every ounce of love in that moment. "Yes, love. We can finally go home." As they walked hand in hand, leaving behind the cursed cabin, Sarah felt lighter, serene. The dark woods softened, reclaiming their beauty. And though echoes of their struggle would linger in their hearts, the warmth of hope now stood steadfast, a reminder of the bond that could withstand even the darkest nights. This was the final chapter for Sarah and Emma, but not the end of their story. With every step they took, they carried with them the light, their own defiance against the darkness. So this is it, folks. The journey has come to a close, but your support is everything. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear from all of you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Join the community and keep the magic alive. Your engagement makes all the difference.